this is, you know, I'm a great believer in the resilience and strength of the American people and of this country because, as I like to say, America is better than its politics. America is Americans.
Yeah.
And this election has been a dreadful, grueling slog for the people of this country. It has been the worst thing that I've seen inflicted on them in my decades of covering politics. And both parties have a lot to be ashamed of this cycle. But I think one of the things that the Democrats have to be ashamed of is that they have pushed Hillary Clinton through without ever making an argument to the people of this country about what it means to be a Democrat today.
But why? I don't actually...
Because people are lazy and they take the easy way out.
It's very stupid.
Well, he's just scrambling sort of this last moment here to try to make this case that, you know, Beyonce and Jay-Z can put us over the top. Forget everything else you've heard of these last few months about email investigations and everything else. Just, you know, you get this enthusiasm with the rap vote.
Well, now look, yes, but... you know, President Obama is got his legacy on the line, and he is going to go out. It's telling that Detroit is in the mix and that they're going to have their closing moment in Philadelphia. Does that reflect some concern on their part about enthusiasm among African-American voters? Yes. Obviously. You don't spend time there. They'd much rather say that their closing argument was going to be in Raleigh or that they were going to be in Florida, but instead they're...
It's defensive.
Well, they're either trolling or defensive.
But it's just transparent race politics. He does one of his last interviews with Al Sharpton. Are you joking? Like, if someone said to you 8 years ago, hey, Chris, he's going to get elected and he's going to do his last interview with Sharpton as president, you'd be like, that's not the guy I've been... You know what I mean? Like, I didn't expect him to become that guy.
If the legacy of the 2008, 2012, and now 2016 elections is the further racial balkanization of the United States, we're all going to be real sorry for it.
All right, so
they're pushing it.
Fox News has got 67 hours of coverage. You're going to be a big part of that.
Man, I'm tired just thinking about that.
Tuesday's going to be a potentially long day. How should
67 hours?
I know.
Why did you put it that way? Now I'm like pre-exhausted.
We're promoting here.
Oh, okay.
67 hours.
I'm pre-exhausted. I'm tired thinking about it. I have to go lay down.
How should people be watching these? Yeah, sleep now.
Yeah.
How should they be watching these results coming in, and how long until you think we're going to be able to get a sense of who's going to win?
Well, I left this building at 3 a.m. when you guys were probably entering this building.
Right.
And basically, here's what we're looking at. In the East, take these 4 states, Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Florida. Donald Trump's got to win 3. It's pretty simple. And that's it. By 8 o'clock, those polls will be closed. Now, you can look at it another way, which is if Hillary Clinton wins Georgia, if you're a Republican, get out the claret and go for it because you're going to make an early night of it.
Americans don't drink claret, by the way.
Oh, all right.
We call it Almaden.
Almaden?
Almaden.
Out of the slap the bag. Slap the bag. On the other hand, if Donald Trump wins Pennsylvania, the route is on for the Republicans. So those are,
you think he can? You think he can win Pennsylvania?
I mean, he can. I mean, it's not as far-fetched as me riding in the Kentucky Derby. I mean, he can do it. He's got a shot there.
Why is she defending it? Because it wasn't in play. I mean, honestly, nobody thought it was in play, but now she's clearly worried about it.
It's hard to tell whether or not they're trolling or really genuinely terrified. And that's the thing. And they may not know themselves because the data, here's the way Donald Trump wins. If older white men who don't usually vote show up and vote, he needs this army of white dudes. He needs people who have our demographic footprint to show up at the polls and vote. If that doesn't happen, if the electorate looks like 2012, he's going to lose. So he needs the electorate to look different than it does usually. He needs it to be a little whiter and a little older.
Wow. So much to digest, and we'll be watching, Chris, and your analysis on election night.
It's a few days for you. It's going to be exciting.
So good.
I can't wait. All right, Chris Stirewalt, the great Chris Stirewalt. Great to see you this morning. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris.
A Fox News alert now because serious concerns about hackers causing chaos at the polls. So what is Homeland Security doing this morning? We're going to have a live report from Washington. That's next.
Plus, Donald Trump says he loves reading the WikiLeaks. Don't we all? They revealed the DNC plot to destroy Bernie Sanders. Debbie Wasserman Schultz says she's just the scapegoat. It's a conspiracy. Her side of the story. Straight ahead.
Back some quick headlines now. A former Bernie Sanders supporter turned Democrat member of the Electoral College in Washington State is now saying that he refuses to vote for Hillary Clinton even if she wins the popular vote. Clinton is expected to win Washington State and all of its 12 electoral votes, but she will only get 11 of those votes if this elector stands firm. He says, quote, all of humanity is looking down a cliff and he could not face his 6 children and 10 grandchildren if he cast a vote for Clinton. You heard that right. Electors who refuse to follow the popular vote could face a $1,000 fine. And I don't know which polls to believe. Just ask China's Monkey King. You can see him there. Shanghai's psychic animal named Jada. Not hesitating to pick a life-size cutout of Donald Trump when asked to predict who would win in next Tuesday's election. Jada's record is 1-for-1 after calling the winner of Europe's football championship earlier this year. We'll see how
So
that
he's
plays
got a
out.
long track record.
That's hilarious.
1-for-1.
You know what? I mean, look, obviously it's a psychic Chinese monkey, so yeah, I wouldn't like bet all. You know, I wouldn't mortgage my house to bet, but I would actually trust that monkey more than, say, Politico.
Totally.
I would.
That's true. And you know what? There's a llama in Philadelphia. Do you guys, anybody in the control booth know that llama's name, Nick? There's a llama that accurately predicts Super Bowl
Oh, the llama that I trust more than Politico?
Exactly.
Yeah. And there's also a cow I trust more than
Betsy
Politico.
the cow?
Bessie the cow?
Yeah, Betsy the cow.
Right. All right, a Fox News alert now. Just 3 days until the election. The Department of Homeland Security has serious concerns. The election process may be disrupted by hackers.
The great Garrett Tenney is live from the nation's capital with the very latest on this pretty interesting story. Good morning, Garrett.
Hey, good morning, Tucker, Clayton, and Abby. You know, cybersecurity attacks are a concern going into Tuesday, but U.S. officials aren't too worried about hackers actually changing votes on Election Day simply because of how decentralized our voting system is. Polling places are spread across the country, and voting machines are not connected to the internet. What cybersecurity experts are worried about, though, is the potential for hackers to undermine confidence in our election system. The concern is that hackers, including those linked to Russia, could try to create confusion on Election Day by launching cyber attacks on targets such as the databases that store voter rolls, the websites for secretaries of states where election results are posted, and websites such as Twitter, Facebook, and news outlets where Americans will be going for updates on the election. Previously, the Department of Homeland Security confirmed that hackers had successfully breached voter registration systems in at least 2 states, Arizona and Illinois. Yesterday, DHS Secretary Jay Johnson said after months of preparation, they're ready for election night.
We're very vigilant right now. I know state and local election officials are very, very vigilant right now, and I believe we'll be in a good place on Tuesday.
And during a tour of the DHS's National Cybersecurity and Communications Integration Center yesterday, officials also said they are now actively working with 48 states that have requested cybersecurity help ahead of the election. Tucker, Abby, Clayton.
All right,
Garrett Tenney, ladies and gentlemen. Great to see you.
Thank you, Garrett.
Well, it's the final Saturday before the election, and we convinced Eric Bolling to wake up early. How did we pull that off? I don't know. He's going to join us in the studio coming up.
You know, we're going to ask him that. And we've heard a lot of different theories about what's going on inside the FBI right now. Clinton insider Ed Klein, he is here with what his sources are saying, and the details, they are explosive. Stick with us.
So you asked for some quick headlines, and we're delivering. First up, New Jersey Governor Chris Christie canceled his trip to New Hampshire today. He was supposed to campaign for Donald Trump there, but there was a bombshell jury verdict for 2 of his former aides. Bridget Ann Kelly and Bill Baroni were convicted on multiple charges. They include conspiracy and fraud. It all stems from a plot to shut down traffic lanes on the GW Bridge. They face a lot of jail time, potentially. And then Chicago rolls out the red carpet for the World Series winners, the Cubs. 5 million people turned out to cheer on the team as they took a victory lap around downtown. The Cubs won the first championship in 108 years. They did it in Game 7 with a win over the Cleveland Indians, one of the most dramatic World Series games in memory. Abby?
Such an emotional win, wasn't that? Unbelievable. All right, well, the war on the FBI, it only continues as President Obama slams James Comey's his decision to revisit the Hillary Clinton email probe just days before this election. Now, with the latest rumblings within the White House and the FBI, the author of the New York Times best-selling book, Guilty as Sin, the great Ed Klein. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Great to be here.
On the couch. So you've got your sources.
Yes.
What are these rumblings? What is going on behind closed doors at the FBI?
Well, you know, that clip from the president says it all. Behind the scenes, the White House would like nothing more than to fire this guy, Comey.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been talking about it, but it would be a Saturday night massacre. I mean, he can't do it. Comey knows that. And he's going full tilt, according to my sources, both on Mrs. Clinton's emails, but more importantly, on the pay-to-play and the Haiti connection because of all the lucrative contracts that the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, steered to cronies and donors in Haiti And where did all the money go? Because we don't know.
It's a great question. It's a remarkable thing we just saw, though. The President of the United States basically attacking the FBI director
Yes.
he appointed. He chose James Comey and calling him partisan.
Yeah.
There must have been a lot of debate about that. That's a big deal that
It's a huge deal. And Valerie Jarrett actually suggested to him that he fire Comey, which he can do, by the way, legally. But if he did that, I mean, it would be an obstruction of justice.
That was an interview with
obviously.
Al Sharpton, by the way, the former FBI informant. I mean, there's so much symbolism going on.
I know.
Fire
I
him,
know.
but they weren't looking to fire him a few months ago.
No, they loved him a
Didn't
few
charge
months
Hillary
ago.
Clinton for
Exactly,
anything,
yeah.
so this is all politics.
Here's what my sources are telling me. They're saying that there's a very good chance that if she's elected president on November 8th, by the time inauguration comes around, Comey will have recommended an indictment of the president-to-be.
That's what your sources
Wow.
are telling
That's, yeah, and,
That's pretty-
and it would be a constitutional crisis of enormous
Something we've never
proportions
experienced before.
because the Attorney General, with, of course, the president's backing, is not going to accept his recommendation for an indictment. So there'll be this titanic battle between the FBI on the one hand, the Attorney General and the White House on the other hand, just before the inauguration.
You play this all out historically. She becomes president. She actually puts her hand on the Bible, becomes president. The vice president then maybe, Tim Kaine, takes over. This would be remarkable.
I was thinking, if she becomes president, and what if she becomes debilitated for reasons of health? That's the other aspect of this that nobody ever discusses. Are we going to get the goofy Tim Kaine as our vice president moving in, or will we have Bill Clinton behind the scenes being a kind of Edith Wilson-like when Woodrow Wilson had his stroke?
Well, I
On
want
the
to
age of the internet, harder to pull that off.
That's right.
I want you to talk about the FBI and the culture inside the FBI for a moment. And you say, according to your sources, that it's just a toxic environment at the FBI. How does Comey right that ship? Can he, or is he out after election?
He's very much aware of this. There are stacks of resignation letters right now on his desk that he has not signed. When he walks down the hallways of the FBI and says good morning to his agents, some of them don't even talk to him and respond. I mean, it's really a bad sense of morale there. He knows it. His own wife, I'm told, by family friends are telling him, Jim, actually he's referred to as Big Jim by a lot of people because he's 6'8", as you know. You did the wrong thing. I think he's absolutely determined to do what he thinks is the right thing this time, which is to follow the new emails that have been coming from, what's his name, Anthony Weiner's laptop computer to the ultimate conclusion that Mrs. Clinton should, in fact, be indicted.
What happens if Donald Trump wins? What happens with the FBI?
Well, I think the FBI will do its job anyway. I think, even if Donald Trump wins, I think Hillary's in for big trouble from the FBI.
Man, so finally, you've detailed, you wrote a whole entire book about the tension between the Clintons and the Obamas.
Yes.
And you see President Obama going all the way. Just no stops. I've never seen a president this activist and this partisan in a presidential election.
True.
What is that about?
Well, it's either Hillary or Donald. And if Donald comes in, he undoes the entire legacy.
Yes.
So the president has no choice. He has to look like he wants Hillary, and he really does want Hillary because Hillary will carry on his legacy if she's elected president.
Wow.
Amazing.
Learned a lot from you this
Ed
morning.
Klein, great to see you this morning.
Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.
All right, so what does Eric Bolling think is going to happen on Tuesday? Well, guess what? We woke him up extra early this morning. He joins us live. There he is, right after the break.
And when you fall off, get back on that horse. Anthony Weiner has taken that advice literally. We'll tell you what this picture means. Coming up.
I don't want to know. Oh, gosh, you can't make it up.
No.
You actually can't make it up.
You really can't. This whole
a man
election
who's
cycle.
been following this from the very beginning, who has never varied in his prediction that we're going to see a massive upset, is Eric Bolling of the Five, who joins us now on the set.
Well, thanks for having me.
stand by
Good
it.
to be back. Good to be back. Yeah.
So, are you still feeling confident?
Yeah, I do. You talked to Starwell about some of the paths. There are numerous paths. I think that we come Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, you see a lot of states that have flipped both ways. I don't think it's all said and done that she only needs one or he only needs this certain path. I think you're going to see a lot of surprises.
I want to get your take on the FBI and the latest on this investigation. What now? The Democrats, their strategy is to attack the FBI, go after James Comey. You remember back in July, of course.
He was a hero.
He was a hero.
Yeah.
And here's a Politico headline this morning. I'll read this to you. The FBI looks like Trump's America. Just digest this, if you will, Eric. The 67% white male agents, the Bureau doesn't reflect the nation. Did its conservative culture play a role in Comey's decision to reveal the renewed Clinton email probe? They're 67% white. That's why they're going after Clinton.
That's insane. The reason they're going after Clinton because they found some evidence. The agents, there were 4 agencies within the FBI, 4 different offices, who found something, and they pressed James Comey to reinvestigate what's going on. That's what it is. It's not color. It's not partisanship. They just said, look, we've been working hard. We've been, due diligence over the past, 2 years, and we found stuff that you should take another look at, and so he did. And as you point out, Clayton, accurately, a couple of months ago, James Comey was the hero for saying, hey, I don't recommend an indictment. Now there are potential 2 avenues of indictments, and I don't remember who said it, but there is a very, very real possibility if Hillary Clinton is the next president-elect, she could be indicted on 2 separate avenues.
You know where this came? I mean, this is like a flat-out Hillary campaign, David Brock, Media Matters talking point that somebody fed to Politico. 5 years ago, they would have said, that's too stupid. We're not going with that. Now, it's like every news organization is just transcribing the most ludicrous possible talking points from the campaign.
Look what WikiLeaks has showed us. With, Glenn Thrush, you saw where he actually sent a piece to Podesta saying, hey, what don't you like about this piece? I'll take this out, and then he calls himself the political hacker, a hack, whatever. John Harwood at CNBC, some of the most egregious stuff I've ever seen now. Yeah. I'm an opinion journalist. I'm not a news journalist, but I got to tell you, I don't think that stuff would fly in any newsroom.
Donna Brazile?
Yeah.
Donna Brazile.
From
to
CNN?
CNN's credit, they fired her.
Yeah, no,
they needed to fire her, but the DNC should fire her too.
That was just bad. All right, so who knows what will happen on Tuesday? The polls are tight. The swing states are all tight. Hillary Clinton still does have a slight advantage, though, in the numbers in the Electoral College. So let's talk about what matters after that, if she does win, the policies that will go into place. What we've learned a lot from the WikiLeaks and these emails is things that she has said behind closed doors about how she feels she wants to take this country, whether it's open borders, whether it's, the single-payer tax, single-payer health care. How should people be thinking about that?
There's a great summary if you go back to yesterday's Wall Street Journal op-ed, and it talks about the cost of Clinton, and it goes through the $1 trillion that she's already pledged to raise taxes. It talks about the cost to businesses, small businesses and big businesses, of increased regulation that she talks about. Talks about the expanding Obamacare, how much that's going to cost. It goes through, and then the last note is that will stifle economic growth going forward. There's a massive stat out there that the Trump campaign should be highlighting these last 3 days. President Obama, over 8 years, has never had 1 year of 3% growth. That doesn't sound like much, right? Except every single president, including the ones that were president during the Great Depression, had at least 1 year of 3% GDP growth. Obama never had it. Hillary Clinton will be Obama on steroids for the economy. And you don't want that. Ask the middle class. Ask the people between the coast, the flyover country, if it's been great for them.
You hear the president last night in his sit-down interview with his friend Reverend Al Sharpton, and he said, what do you want your final message to be, your closing argument? He said, look, we're sitting right now on this fantastic jobs report that we just had the other day. Yeah. Fantastic jobs report. What do you make of that?
160,000 jobs when they were expecting 175,000 jobs. The real number, the real unemployment number isn't 4.9%. It's 9.5% when you take the 91 million people out of the workforce, or the several million people who've left the workforce because they just can't find a job and they gave up. You put them back in, and you have to. You have to. There are fewer people working now, even though the population is growing, than when President Obama took office. If you put them back into the equation, it's 9.5%. Look, Wall Street's doing great. The top 1 to 5% are doing fantastic, and then you hit from $250,000 all the way down to about $30,000. The middle class, the rest of the country is getting squeezed. Prices are going up. Wages are not going up. The lower level, under 30, you're doing pretty well, too, because you're getting a lot of redistribution entitlements.
Well, just look at our polling.
That middle part is where the country is.
I mean, The Democratic coalition is the rich and the poor, and they're fully on board for Hillary, but the middle of the country is getting hammered. These policies hurt them and their Republican voters. Is that an accident?
Obamacare is no joke. This increase in Obamacare, 25% across the board, some states 100%, is killing the middle part of the country, the middle class. The lower middle class, they're just not. Young people are deciding to take the penalty instead of buying Obamacare, and that's why the whole thing is collapsing.
And many people said that was going to happen well before today.
Of course.
And that is.
But these are Democrat policies. You want 4 or 8 more years of this? You got to be out of your mind. You got to get out and vote. Get out and vote.
Yeah, we'll see what happens on Tuesday.
Eric Bolling, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, Tucker, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Well earned and deserved.
Thank you.
Right.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, Eric. Great to see you this morning.
All right, we do have some other headlines to get to this morning, starting with this, the woman who made headlines earlier this year accusing Donald Trump of sexual assaulting her when she was just 13 years old, suddenly dropping that lawsuit. This after many criticized her case for its complete lack of evidence, and Trump's legal team denied the allegations last April, calling them, quote, disgusting and politically motivated. Paul Ryan has a message for those who say he is planning on stepping down as House Speaker.
Nope, not true. I don't believe everything you read. I am interested in staying on as Speaker. You know why? Because we have an agenda that we have to put into law in 2017.
That is Ryan clearing the air after 4 House Republicans anonymously told the website The Hill they expected Ryan to step down after Tuesday's election. And Deputy Wasserman Schultz insisting that the DNC is not rigged, claiming she, not Bernie Sanders, is the real victim.
The Sanders campaign began aggressively trying to find a scapegoat and turn the attention away from mistakes that they made. And they did so successfully and made me the boogie woman. But that's okay.
Boogie woman. Well, Wasserman Schultz was forced to step down as chair of the DNC just days before the convention after emails showed coordination with Hillary Clinton's campaign against Bernie Sanders. And listen to this story. Anthony Weiner saddling up in sex rehab. You can see him right there. The new photos obtained by the New York Post show the former politician and estranged husband to Uma Abedin trotting through a Tennessee ranch. Weiner was caught sexting women, including an underage girl, while still married to Abedin, who is Hillary Clinton's top aide. Equine therapy is included in the $25,000 35-day rehab program. And I'm learning a lot this morning about what this therapy entails. Apparently horse riding.
Riding around on horseback with a helmet.
Yeah, that'll cure your sex addiction, I guess. I don't know. But, you know, it's interesting. It's a therapy place, and they're allowing the press in to take photos. Those kinds of places don't have press allowed in there.
I couldn't even watch the Weiner movie. I tried to watch it, and it was so depressing and creepy and weird that I had to turn it off.
You got to watch it, though. It's just
I couldn't make myself. All right, imagine living in a one-bedroom apartment with 82 other people. It's happening in California. 83 voters, air quotes around voters, living in the same house. Does that sound legitimate to you? We've got details next.
Plus, Geraldo Rivera, the former New Mexico Governor Bill Richardson, and the Reverend Franklin Graham. They are all joining us live. It is going to be another big hour to go here. This morning, is it a typo or a knock against Hillary Clinton ballots in one Arkansas county listing the Democratic nominee with an extra I, making her Hillary Clinton? Lone Oak County's election commissioner has apologized for this error, and they insist it was not done intentionally. And Donald Trump may be right about voter fraud after dozens of ballots are sent to one house. That's right, a California woman finding nearly 90 ballots stacked on her mailbox addressed to different people. The election office says it was a computer glitch and is working to identify any similar incidents. Okay, Tucker?
Well, we're on the edge of our seats waiting to see which way the tide turns in several important swing states.
Many are wondering if there is a chance in Pennsylvania. Could that swing towards Trump?
Connell McShane is live for us in Philadelphia with the latest. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, this wasn't in play, and now Hillary Clinton is spending time here just 3 days to go.
No doubt she'll be here this evening. She'll be back here on Monday night. I mean, you're right. We thought this was a reliably blue state. Hasn't gone Republican since 1988. But if you look at the numbers on it, there's no denying that there's a Trump surge. There's just a question of, does he have enough time to come all the way back? Real Clear Politics, in the average of the polls, has a Hillary Clinton lead that was once double digits down to about 3 points this morning. So whether Trump can win, we don't know yet. But I can tell you, we were out at a Trump rally last night in Hershey, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, and there was a number of people that we spoke to there. This one married couple kind of stood out because they had driven from this area, Philadelphia, and the key Philadelphia suburbs, about 2 hours to get out there. And this woman was telling me a very interesting story about a neighbor of hers, that if there are more people like this out there, it could be very good news for Donald Trump. The neighbor afraid to say who she was going to vote for. Watch this.
I exposed and that I'm like, oh my God, I'm such a Trump fan. And she looked at me and hesitated for about 2 minutes, and then she started coming out and like, yeah, I think we're actually also voting for Trump. So, like, I cannot stand Hillary. I can't, and start talking about Hillary. And so a lot of people are silent about this.
Okay, so that's the case, you know, that the Trump supporters and campaign have been making, that there's somehow this silent support out there. I mean, obviously that is anecdotal, not scientific by any means, and the data tells us that Hillary Clinton still has an advantage in this state, but it also tells us, as I said a moment ago, that things are getting closer. So this evening, Katy Perry will be here for a concert, and Hillary Clinton will be back on Monday with the President and Mrs. Obama. So clearly there is some worry, and the one other point I'd make to you guys, there's a transit strike here in the city of Philadelphia. So if that's not wrapped up by Tuesday, there is some worry in the Clinton camp about turnout, because they really need turnout in this city. Back to you guys.
When in doubt,
Oh, thank you.
Bring in Katy Perry.
Another reminder. Democrats done a good job running Philadelphia. I don't know.
I've spent a lot of time in Philly. That's where I went to college.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, having a transit strike, though, getting people, I mean, where's your public transportation to get out to the polls? Philadelphia relies on SEPTA, relies on that public transportation. If you don't have it, that's a big problem.
It's going to be a challenge, right? Well, a new Clinton cash bombshell coming out this morning. It turns out Hillary did not disclose a major foreign donation while she was Secretary of State. Peter Schweitzer literally wrote the book on Clinton corruption. And guess what? He's joining us next.
And then does John Kerry know something we don't know? Wait till you hear what he's got planned for the day after the election. It does not involve kiteboarding. So Donald Trump the other day on the campaign trail said, I love reading these WikiLeaks emails. And you can see why, because there's a lot in there. Here's the latest bombshell. It comes from the Clinton Foundation. After new reports revealed that Hillary Clinton failed to disclose a $1 million gift from the country of Qatar, or Qatar as we used to call it, while she was still at the State Department. How did that happen, and what does it mean? Joining us now is a man who literally wrote the book on all this, Peter Schweitzer. He is the author of Clinton Cash. It inspired the investigation the FBI is now doing in the first place. He's been interviewed multiple times by the Bureau. Peter, it's great to see you this morning. So tell us, how can she have received $1 million from a foreign country? I mean, that just seems so out of bounds. What are the details?
Yeah, it's completely out of bounds. You know, when Hillary Clinton became Secretary of State, as a condition of taking that job, Tucker, they agreed to do a number of things. Have complete transparency, disclosing donors. Donations from foreign governments had to have pre-approval. In this case, that didn't happen. They didn't disclose it. And now this is multiple violations in this regard. So you have Qatar at a time when the Arab Spring is taking place. They're very anxious about what the U.S. position is going to be, giving $1 million to the Clinton Foundation, and the Clinton Foundation not disclosing that as they had agreed to do.
They're not required, or they were not required by law to do that? I mean, this was just a sort of gentleman's agreement she made?
Well, it was a written agreement with Barack Obama. To his credit, Barack Obama said, in order for you to be Secretary of State, you need to do this. Hillary Clinton also said to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee during her confirmation hearings there would be complete transparency. So they failed to live up with it. And the problem is, Tucker, of course, they're making promises now that there's not going to be any more foreign money. Bill's not going to give speeches. We got to take that with a grain of salt, or a grain of sand, actually, in a way, because they have not lived up to their previous commitments, and there's no expectation that they would now.
Just to sort of put this in context, I want to put a graphic on the screen of some of the money that the Clinton Foundation has taken from foreign governments. So 1 to 5 from Qatar, Saudi, 10 to 25 million, Kuwait up to 10, UAE up to 5, Brunei up to 5, Oman up to 5, Algeria up to $500,000. I mean, among many other things you notice, like, these are all countries in which women don't have, you know, Western understanding of, like, civil rights. I mean, if she's president, how is she going to deal with these countries knowing that, you know, she owes something to them?
Well, that's right, Tucker. I mean, add on top of that the speaking fees, the millions of dollars in money from these same governments that ended up in the Clintons' pockets. Look, I mean, this is a huge problem.
Yeah.
And as much as the Clintons want to say that this money was given with no strings attached, I think we all know that governments like Saudi Arabia don't give money away for nothing. They expect something in return.
Nobody does. That's exactly right. Peter Schweitzer, it's great to see you. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Tucker.
Geraldo Rivera, top of the hour. Our roaming correspondent roams onto our set.
This race is on. We are all tied up here in the state of Florida. We're leading in national polls. We're coming wheel to wheel out of the fourth turn, and we're going to chase to the checkered flag.
Have you been seeing what's happening with those polls? They're like rocket ships. They're like rocket ships.
I am so energized after this concert. And I gotta say, didn't you love the pantsuits?
Well, I love reading those WikiLeaks.
What did you say?
I got rid of them. They're all gone. Then they find out, uh-oh, we got bad news, boss. I think they went on the cloud. You know the cloud? Never disappears off the cloud.
She has been in control of herself for 40-something years.
You can't just get depressed and crawl up in the fetal position. Oh, what's gonna... No, you just gotta vote.
Wow. Get out your abacus, get out your counter. 3 days until the election.
You guys,
holy smokes.
We made it.
It's
3 days to go.
We made it.
3 days
Looks
to go.
like we made it. Let's just get to this right now because we've got a brand new Fox News poll showing Donald Trump closing in on Hillary Clinton, and now Trump giving his closing argument to America in a new ad right before Election Day.
And Fox News senior national correspondent John Roberts, he is standing by in Tampa with the latest on the Trump campaign and these new poll numbers. John, good morning.
Abby, Clayton, Tucker, good morning to you. Let's take a look at it. It's the new Fox News poll out in a two-way race, and we measure this so you can see a trend. Hillary Clinton leads by a single point, 46-45. A week ago, that margin was 5 points. Donald Trump today in Florida this morning, then going to North Carolina, where he leads in the Real Clear Politics average by 1. Nevada, where he now leads by 2. And Colorado, where Hillary Clinton still leads by 3. Yesterday, he was in Ohio and Pennsylvania, zeroing in on Obamacare, of course, pledging that he would begin the process of repealing and replacing it on the first day in office, that he would convene a special session of Congress in order to do it, warning yesterday in Hershey, Pennsylvania, that Americans are about to get crushed by a trifecta of rising premiums, fewer choices, and declining quality of care. Here's Trump from yesterday.
It's just been announced that the residents of Pennsylvania are going to experience a massive double-digit premium hike. All 67 counties in Pennsylvania are losing Obamacare insurers next year. Lots of luck negotiating, folks. But it won't matter because it'll be terminated. You won't have to bother. We'll have great health care at much less expense.
So he is going to air that across the country, national newscast, entertainment programs, a lot of the NCAA football games today, as well as the NFL tomorrow and NASCAR races. Basically, he is going to flood the zone this weekend in hopes of bringing as many people as possible in the door between now and November the 8th, where they still do have early voting, and in places like Pennsylvania where they don't have any early voting, and you got to come out in the day unless you filed an absentee ballot. So we'll see how it goes.
We will in just 3 days.
The great John Roberts, who does not look tired after months on the road.
Unbelievable.
It is unbelievable.
He deserves a nice long vacation after all this.
Yeah, we're nearing the end.
We are, and I hope you get one. See you in Florida, John.
Right.
Until the recount. Thanks, John. I know. Can you imagine? No, we don't want to repeat of that.
Here's the reality, though, because he just went through those polls. Hillary Clinton still has the advantage when it comes to the polls. She's got a slight edge. She's got the electoral math on her side. You cannot deny, though, this momentum and an enthusiasm that Donald Trump has had. When you look at where he was 2 weeks ago, down in some of these states by 10, 12 points. You look at Colorado today, Michigan, New Hampshire, Nevada, even Pennsylvania, where Hillary Clinton is spending time tonight, 3 days before this election. Clearly, she's concerned there, states that were not in play.
It's shocking. I've never seen a move this profound in the final week of an election. It's unbelievable. And you're right. She's defending Pennsylvania, something they bragged about for months. Geraldo Rivera has been on the road. He is indeed our roaming correspondent.
Where's he roaming now?
He roams free. Where are you this morning, Geraldo?
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
From Chicago.
Chicago. So are you surprised? So like everyone in everyone in New York and Los Angeles and DC, this is over 2 weeks ago. And all of a sudden out of nowhere, it's really close. Are you surprised by that?
How could I be surprised? I'm in Chicago after 108 years. They won the World Series. Anything is possible. Yeah, that's Harry Caray's restaurant in the distance, Chicago River over there. They dyed it blue yesterday in honor of the Cubs. 5 million people turned out. Tucker, I am not surprised. I have a couple of points to make. Number one, the S&P has been in a 9-day swoon that exactly mirrors Donald Trump's surge. So obviously, Wall Street is worried that this could really happen, the largest upset in American political history. And I think that we are really on the verge of that, the cusp of that. I think Donald Trump really can do this. And I put the credit for that squarely in the lap of James Comey, the FBI director, who a week ago Friday in an extraordinary press conference said that he was reopening, in essence, the investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails. So you got James Comey on the one hand, you have Vladimir Putin on the other, and these WikiLeaks, the flood of these one-sided disclosures.
Geraldo, though, you're leaving something out, and that's Obamacare.
Right.
If you look at those Obamacare premiums in states like Pennsylvania and Arizona, where you're seeing this movement and you're seeing these incredible increases on their monthly premium costs, those numbers where we learned about these increases on Obamacare hit before this email scandal with James Comey, and that's where you saw some of these trend lines. Do you disagree?
I disagree. I disagree to this extent, Clayton, and I think that it is important to note that Obamacare really does seem to be in a very wounded, a profoundly wounded, grievously wounded state. But that is like 1 to 100 when it comes to the emails. If you ask anybody on the streets of this town or any town in this country what it is about Hillary Clinton that bothers them, it is not Obamacare. You mentioned Obamacare. In fairness, how could you not mention the fact that for the 73rd straight month, we have added jobs, 161,000 jobs, unemployment now 4.9%, wages increasing 2.8%. In fairness, if you're going to talk about the economy or Obamacare, you have to give a much more balanced picture. It may not be great, Tucker, but remember where we were when George W. Bush was president.
I'm not saying Trump's going to win, but I am saying the whole Vladimir Putin thing is just dumb. I mean, there's no concrete proof that Putin is behind this. And for someone who covered the war...
I don't understand how you could say that when we've had 12 intelligence agencies that say it's the Russians who are giving WikiLeaks the information.
And
doesn't it strike you that there's no WikiLeaks...
There were weapons of mass destruction
There's no WikiLeaks about Republicans? There's no WikiLeaks about any Republicans? Republicans don't send emails? You don't send emails?
But it doesn't mean
I don't send
Putin is behind it.
emails? It's only Hillary Clinton's emails?
Let me stop the explosion for 1 second. Just ask this. Let's stipulate, Putin's behind it, okay? You can prove it. You can't, but let's say you could. Isn't the real point that these emails are real, and don't we as journalists have an obligation to assess them on their own terms? Like, what do they say? So this whole Putin stuff is just a talking point meant to divert our attention from the amazing facts in these emails, no?
I want everyone to understand going forward that Donald Trump could very well win this race. He could very well win this race on the basis of those emails. Those emails largely were provided by WikiLeaks. WikiLeaks was fed by the Russians. Vladimir Putin has influenced America's election. 11 of our intelligence agencies have certified to that fact.
Which agencies?
That's point one.
Which
point two is, I'm going to list them that, NSA, etc. I will. But... and everyone is professing to be so upset about what the emails contain, and yet we're not upset at all about Edward Snowden and the NSA leaks where they're really giving out state secrets.
Let me jump in there, because I think what people are concerned about and upset about when it comes to these emails, and what we're even learning this morning about classified emails Hillary Clinton sent to her daughter Chelsea from State Department, is how she can get away with that. And now she's running for president. You think about so many different jobs, including Mike Pence in the debate when he talked about his son working in the military. If he had sent classified emails, classified documents, he would be removed from his post. So I think a lot of people are scratching their heads saying, how is she able to get away with this and not only be charged for anything, but now potentially be elected as the president of the United States, if that's what ends up happening on Tuesday? That's a question on a lot of people's minds, I think, this morning.
Good question.
Two points. Your last two guests have spoken of imminent indictments. You know and I know that Fox News a few days ago had to backtrack on the report that indictments were imminent. We have backtracked. We have said, we have corrected our reporting in that regard. Why are indictments not imminent? They are not imminent because no grand jury has been impaneled. As an attorney, we know you have to have a grand jury. They have to decide whether there is probable cause that a crime has been committed.
You're not answering Abby's question.
And then they indict. If you have no grand jury, you can't have an indictment. Now to your second point about Hillary Clinton sharing classified information with Chelsea. If Hillary Clinton knowingly shared classified information with someone not qualified to receive it, as David Petraeus, General Petraeus, my friend, did with Paula Broadwell, as General Cartwright, the hero, did with various reporters in Washington, D.C., then a crime has been committed. But what does that require? It requires a finding that A, the material was indeed classified, and B, there was an intent to share classified information with someone not qualified legally to receive it.
But
there has
you're
been
you're kind of dodging what Abby said. Look, let's be real. Do you think that if you did what Hillary did, that you'd be in the same position she's in, which is like not charged with anything, no grand jury? No, you'd be in deep trouble and you know it. Like, that's just true. She's getting special treatment and that's wrong.
Do you think she has gotten special treatment, Geraldo, or no?
Yeah, I think indeed Hillary Clinton has gotten special treatment when the FBI violated its 60-day rule. What does the 60-day rule say? It says 60 days before an election, you don't mess with the political process when you are on the judicial side of the equation. You wait until the election is over. If you have missed that 2-month window, then you wait. To do it 11 days, look at the impact
That's not a rule,
it has had.
by the way. There's no law that says that. That's not true.
It is the policy of the Bureau, and you cannot point to a single instance in history where that has happened.
It's a tradition, and look, I think they should have included specifics. I kind of agree with you there. You shouldn't accuse someone without being precise about what you're accusing them of. I agree with that. But let's not pretend they violated some law that passed by our Congress. That's just not true. It's a tradition, okay? Not a regulation.
But here we have a situation. We can hate Hillary Clinton as a candidate, as a double dealer and the foundation and all this kind of seedy stuff you don't like, but you must admit that this was extraordinary. It has profoundly impacted the track of this race, and we may have Donald Trump as the President of the United States, and that may be great, but it will be because of the emails. And it will be because of the FBI's
At the end of the day, these were her own emails.
Exactly.
And what could have been worse is if they waited until after the election.
Let us all lay our emails out there. Let the world see every email Donald Trump has ever sent.
Yes, you have. So you're lucky. You're in a good place.
The future Secretary of Awesome in the Trump administration, Geraldo Rivera.
Thank you. Our roaming correspondent in Chicago. Good to see Geraldo.
All right, well, the Clinton campaign taking the low road, linking Donald Trump to the KKK. Is this the only closing argument Hillary has left?
The former Democratic governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson, he's going to join Tucker live. Things are going to get heated.
Plus, you've heard the stump speeches, but how are they being received? Lee Carter, our favorite pollster in a world filled with pollsters, is here with brand new dials next.
What kind of country do we want? Do we want a country that is safe with secure borders?
Yes.
Do we want a country where every American gets a fair shot?
Yes.
Do we want a country that honors our Constitution?
Yes.
3 days to go, and both campaigns are making a final push in the battleground states. But are their words powerful enough to sway undecided voters, those independents? Pollster Lee Carter put some of the stump speeches to the dial test. She joins us now with the results. Nice to see you this morning.
Great to be here.
So what is some of the metadata telling you more broadly about what you're seeing these last few days?
I think we're seeing some fatigue with independents. And we've seen that independents the last several weeks have been tracking with Donald Trump supporters 100%. Now we're seeing it more at like 75%. And that's bearing out in the Fox News poll that came out yesterday. We're seeing just a slight decline. But I'm not sure that it's not an overall trend. I think that we're seeing is independents have fatigue about the whole thing.
So they're declining for Donald Trump and the independents. All right, let's play some sound bites here in these final days and see what the dials tell us. Here's Hillary Clinton.
I am sick and and tired of the negative, dark, divisive, dangerous vision and behavior of people who support Donald Trump. It is time for us to say no. We are not going backwards. We're going forward into a brighter future.
What was the grade on this?
So you can see Democrats like that. They gave it an A-, independents a D, Republicans an F. And here's what they said. I mean, one independent said to me this, like, you know what? I'm tired of the negative too, but you are just as negative as he is, and I'm sick of the whole thing. And that's what we're seeing. We
saw some positivity, it seemed, from Melania Trump this week, one of her first Trump stump speeches. Here's Melania Trump on the campaign trail. Let's listen and grade this one.
As Donald travels the country, he has asked some simple but very important questions. Do we want a country where every American gets a fair shot? Yes. Do we want a country that honors our Constitution? Do we want a country that honors life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness? Do we want a president who is a fighter for us and will never give up? Then we want Donald Trump to be our president.
How did this one shake out?
So you can see Democrats gave this a C, independents a B+, and Republicans an A+. They said that she hit it out of the park. They said this was a First Lady speech. They loved it. Now, what I thought was most fascinating there was the Democrats even tracked along with her. They liked her speech until she said the word Donald Trump. You saw a dive.
All right, Barack Obama on his thoughts as to why people may or may not be voting, or say they might not be voting for a woman. Take a listen to this.
To the guys out there, I want to be honest. You know, there's a reason why we haven't had a woman president before. And I think that sometimes, you know, we're kind of trying to get over the hump. I want every man out there who's voting to kind of look inside yourself and ask yourself, well, if you're having problems with this stuff, how much of it is, you know, that we're just not used to it? So that, you know, you know, when a guy's ambitious and out in the public arena and working hard, well, that's okay. But when a woman suddenly does it, suddenly you're all like, well, why is she doing that?
So you can see they're Democrats a B, independents and Republicans a D. And what they said is the sexism argument is a little bit tired. What they also said is, look, I'm all for a woman president. I'm just not sure that I want it to be Hillary Clinton.
Interesting. All right. 3 days to go. Lee Carter, great to see you this morning.
Anything can happen.
and it is. Coming up on the show, the power of prayer this election season. The Reverend Franklin Graham is live with his call for Americans. That's next. Good morning, Reverend. We'll be back with him in a moment. Ahead of the election, son of legendary pastor to the president's Reverend Billy Graham is calling on Americans to pray.
Joining us now is Reverend Franklin Graham, the president and CEO of the Billy Graham Evangelistic Association and Samaritan's Purse. Good morning to you, sir. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good to be with you this morning.
So you're not publicly coming out endorsing anyone, but you say this is the most pivotal, most important election of our lifetime. Why?
Well, there's so much at stake right now when you look at our country. We have great threats outside of our country. We see corruption at every level in Washington, and it's in both parties. And it really, it's a cesspool, and something's got to change. Otherwise, if we just continue as we've been going, I don't see how America's going to be able to make it. We've just become such a corrupt society, and the only hope for America is God. And I went to all 50 state capitals this year to help to hold prayer rallies on the state capitol steps, asking people to pray. And they came by the thousands, and they stood there for hours praying for this nation. And I've been asking Christians to vote, to go to the polls and vote, but pray before you cast your ballot. And just ask God who you should vote for. I'm not going to tell people who to vote for, but I want people to pray.
You're hearing some Christians say, I can't vote for either one, I'm not voting. Is that a dodge, do you think, or is that a legitimate position?
No, they're wrong, absolutely wrong. In the Bible, we see that when Paul was arrested, he was a Roman citizen. and he used his rights as a Roman citizen to appeal to Caesar. And I'm just asking Americans, we have a right to vote. So let's exercise that right and let's vote, because we can make a change. God uses people to bring change. He used his people in the scriptures to bring change. And the Christian voice needs to be heard in America, because we're losing our rights as a nation. And in the last election, they say between 25 to maybe 35 million evangelical Christians stayed away from the polls. And I'm trying to wake the church up and tell them we have a responsibility. Let's go to the polls and vote. And of course, I've been asking Christians to vote for candidates that best stand for biblical principles. That's so important.
Your daughter, Cissy Graham Lynch, on Fox and Friends this week endorsing Donald Trump. Listen to this.
I look at who Trump has surrounded himself with. He has surrounded himself with some godly men, Ben Carson, but he has chosen not just the counsel of Mike Pence, but as his running mate. Mike Pence doesn't just talk about his faith. He talks about his faith in Jesus Christ, and he is not ashamed of it. And I think Trump and Pence together will fight on the behalfs of the Christian voice.
Sure. So is that the argument to evangelicals? You heard from Ted Cruz and others during the primary season that Donald Trump is a fake evangelical, basically, or fake Christian, and that he doesn't really stand for that. But it's surrounding himself with those individuals is really why you would want to throw your support behind Donald Trump. Is that the argument, you think?
Well, I can't speak for Donald Trump's faith. You'd have to ask him, but I've been around him. I know that he is, I think he does have faith. And of course, you could judge a person by the kind of friends that he has and the people that he surrounds him with. And he's got some incredibly good people around him. And that must say something about him. Look at his family. He's got an incredible family. That says something about the man. So, we've all heard, things that he has said in the past, which I certainly don't agree with and wouldn't try to defend. But that was also 11 years ago. But you have to look at where the man is today. And I think he has changed a lot in the last, especially 10 years.
Yeah, that's really well said. For people of faith that are going out to the polls on Tuesday, what are the issues they should be focused on? Where should their focus remain?
Well, I think for me, the Supreme Court, that is what's so important, because the next president in February is going to nominate a justice to the bench. We have to really think about who we want to be on that bench. Hillary Clinton won't give us the names of who she's going to put, but she's also given us the kinds of people that she's looking for, people of various backgrounds and so forth. Donald Trump has given a list of very first-class justices that he would recommend for the bench. And so I think for the Supreme Court, this election is coming down to the Supreme Court. Now, a lot of people in the media don't want you to focus on it. They want to think it's about lost emails. They want you to think it's about his bad mouth or whatever. But that's not what this election's about. It's really about the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court, this next president could be 1, 2, maybe 5 justices